Hello students, myself Dr. Pallavi Rai. I am working as Associate Professor at Ramesh Institute of Vocational and Technical Education, Greater Noida, and today I am here to teach you the Unit 2 of your 5th semester BP 504 Pharmacognosy and Phytochemistry 2 subject. So, today we are going to discuss the Unit 2 where we will start with the alkaloidal drugs, mainly the pharmacognostical studies of opium and vinca. So, opium and vinca both belong to the alkaloidal category of drugs. So, that is why we will first start with the alkaloidal drugs. Now, the alkaloidal drugs are generally the basic substances which are derived from heterocyclic substances, mainly the amino acids which are aromatic amino acids as well as aliphatic amino acids coming together to form the heterocyclic nitrogen containing substances. So, they are derived from amino acids, they have a heterocyclic nitrogen atom which makes it basic in nature, and it is also derived from plants and animals. So, it is generally derived in plants and animals or lower organisms from the amino acids, both aromatic and aliphatic amino acids coming together to give us nitrogen containing heterocyclic substances which are basic in nature, called the alkaloids. So, this is the entire definition of alkaloids. Now, we will understand the basic classification of alkaloids. You have already studied many different types of classifications in your 4th semester. So, I am taking here a swift revision of that classification where we are going to discuss only 3 main categories, which are the true alkaloids, the pseudo alkaloids and the, just a minute, true alkaloids, pseudo alkaloids and proto alkaloids. Now, in true alkaloids, those alkaloids, they follow all the 3 rules of an alkaloidal definition. That is, they have nitrogen in the heterocyclic ring, they are derived from the amino acids and they are produced in the lower organisms, plants as well as animals. And the examples for true alkaloids are tropane alkaloids, we have studied indole alkaloids, pyridine, piperidine derivatives, all those are coming under the true alkaloids. So, they are generally synthesized from phenylalanine, tryptophan, tyrosine, etc. And along with that, they are also mixed with certain aliphatic amino acids like ornithine, methionine, etc. When we talk of the pseudo alkaloids, so pseudo alkaloids, pseudo means what? That it is not following the true version, okay. So, it is not following the definition as it is. So, in pseudo alkaloid, we have that it is having a heterocyclic nitrogen, there is presence of a heterocyclic nitrogen, but the precursors are not the amino acids. So, we do not have the amino acid precursor in case of pseudo alkaloids. So, the example for pseudo alkaloids here are generally the purine derivatives. Example for purine derivatives like caffeine, even Taxol, an anti-cancer agent, it is also belonging to this pseudo alkaloidal derivative. And then the proto alkaloids. Now, proto alkaloids, they are those alkaloids in which it is having the basically this parameter, means it is basically synthesized from the amino acids. The precursors are the amino acids, but during conversion there is no formation of a heterocyclic nitrogen. So, here the heterocyclic nitrogen is not present while it is derived from amino acids. And you can remember that amino acids are generally the basically they come together to form the proteins, and the proto word, it is similar to that of proteins. So, we can remember that way, that because proteins are made up of amino acids, protoalkaloids are also made up of amino acids. And the example for this is ephedrine, and this ephedrine, it is a phenylamine derivative or alkaloid. So, it comes under the protoalkaloids. So, this is the basic classification of alkaloids, and now we will discuss the first drug in alkaloid, that is opium. So, opium, it is commonly known as afim in Hindi as well as post in the local language, and as well as in the market it is sold as crude opium, raw opium or gum opium. But commonly in India we call it afim, in English we call it opium, and it is basically obtained from the fruit of a poppy plant. The name of the plant is poppy plant, commonly known as poppy plant, and from the fruits are generally capsular in nature. So, from the capsules of the opium we get the production of latex. Okay? Latex is the unorganized drug which is obtained from this opium. Therefore, the biological source of this opium is, it consists of the air dried milky latex of the basically the latex obtained by incision in the ripe or unripe capsules of Papaver somniferum. The biological source is Papaver somniferum belonging to the family Papaveraceae. So, the family is Papaveraceae. So, you have to remember what is the source. It comes from the latex of the capsules. Capsule may be ripe or unripe. Generally unripe capsules are preferred. And what is the biological name? Papaver somniferum. And what is the family? Papaveraceae. Okay. So, this is the biological source of opium. Now, the geographical source or the origin where we can find it, where it is generally cultivated. So, the cultivation, because it requires very cold climate for the germination as well as growth. So, it is generally cultivated in Turkey, Russia, in some places of India, Pakistan, Iran and Afghanistan. Presently, the largest manufacturer is Afghanistan. So, it is being cultivated in Afghanistan. In India, because it is a narcotic drug, we will discuss about this in the coming slides. Because it is a narcotic drug, a habit forming drug, it is under the government control. You cannot cultivate on your own. You have to have government approval for the cultivation, and the cultivation in India is approved only in two places. One is in Neemuch, which is in Madhya Pradesh, and in Ghazipur, which is in Uttar Pradesh. We have industries also located for the production of the main active constituent from opium in these regions only. So, you cannot cultivate it anywhere, it is under government regulations. So, before we move further, I would like to discuss the history of the history as well as the cultivation of opium, because it is a very important drug from the study point of view. So, we should know in brief what is the history of this drug. So, this drug has been found to be used even in 3400 BC in the Mesopotamian area, and also in 1300 BC among the Egyptians. It has been mentioned in their text, in their scriptures, they say they have used this opium. And also Hippocrates, the father of medicine, he used to prescribe this opium as a styptic. Styptic means if there is any kind of internal wound inside the body, if there is any kind of wound, it used to be used as a styptic prescribed by Hippocrates, the father of medicine. Gradually the use was increasing, but yes, it also had the problem of habit formation. There were withdrawal symptoms when the person used to leave taking this opium, because of which they always had the need of taking this drug again and again. But because of this use, it was generally popular among the army people, and you know Alexander the Great, he had fought many wars, so his army used to use this opium, and he was the person who brought opium to India as well as China. And gradually the cultivation started at a large scale, people started consuming it, and it started showing its side effects. During the World War, even during the World War, it was given to the army people, and because of it, it started being called as the habit formation property was called as the soldier's disease. It was known as the soldier's disease because the soldiers used to consume it, and they used to have that withdrawal symptoms if they left it. So, have the longing or craving to have this opium again and again. So, looking at all these things, many acts were passed. One act in America was passed, that was the Harrison's Narcotic Act. In 1914 it was passed for control over the usage of these opium alkaloids. Similarly, in India, we have the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act of 1985, which says that the production of this opium as well as its main active constituents is under control. You cannot manufacture it at a large scale on your own. You should have the approval from government for its cultivation or production. So, this is about the regulatory part. There are many acts in different countries where they have passed these acts so that the production is in a controlled way. Now, if we look at the pharmacognostic or the phytochemistry point of view, so again it played a major role in the studies because the isolation of morphine was done by Frederick W. Saturner in 1805. And at that time he named it as morphium. Morphium name was given because morphium signifies the term Morpheus. Morpheus means god of dreams, because it created the euphoria, sense of well-being on consumption. So, people used to like consuming it, and the name was given morphium behind the name Morpheus, which means god of dreams. And the important part is that Frederick Saturner was the person who isolated morphine, and once it was isolated, many derivatives of these morphine were synthesized. For example, heroin, which is a very common type of you can say narcotic drug, and there are many other derivatives which are not having that narcotic effect, but they are more medicinal compared to the morphine. So, that is why this isolation became a very important step in the development of opium. Now, if we look at the cultivation of opium, so I will just explain using this picture. Basically what happens, this opium is produced from the poppy plant. So, these are the flowers, these red colored vibrant flowers, you can see these are the poppy flowers, and from these poppy flowers what happens is that we have the development of the poppy capsules, and poppy capsules, they are incised to give us the latex of opium. Now, poppy plant for cultivation, it requires cold environment. So, generally in the winters during October to December, the seeds are sown in the fields, and gradually till the spring appears. At that time, means in the month of February to March, the plants, they start growing up to a height of around 15 centimeters. They have achieved that height. And after that, gradually proper watering is done. The soil which is required is alluvial soil. So, proper watering is required, and gradually the plant starts flowering. So, by April or May month, what happens? These flowers appear and the flowering starts nicely. Now, once the flowering appears, what will happen? That the pollination will take place, and then these poppies, which you can see in this picture, these poppies are developed. These are nothing but the fruits or the capsules of the opium fruit. Okay? So, they are the fruits of opium. Now, when they are in the unripe state, at that time only we have to do the collection of the latex. So, how is it done? Now, what is done in the evening? Normally the collection is done in the evening. using a specific knife known as nashtar. It is known as nashtar, it is a Urdu term, and this is the diagram of nashtar where it has a pointed tip, and using this nashtar slits are made in the fruit in the longitudinal pattern. Longitudinal pattern means long ways, lambai mein. So, we make the incisions in the longitudinal pattern and they are not very deep, they are just pricked from the tip. So, as the pricking is done, the latex starts oozing out, as you can see here, and this latex, it is generally the cuts, they are made in the evening time. So, as the night falls, what will happen? The temperature will go lower and lower. So, when the temperature lowers, this latex, it solidifies on the surface of the fruit. It will solidify on the surface of the opium fruit, and in the morning before the sun rises, using this same nashtar, you can see that it is having a flat knife like structure. Using that flat part, the latex is scraped off, it is removed from this surface, and this process is repeated 2 to 3 times at an interval of 3 to 4 days. So, it will be going on at 3 to 4 days, it is done 3 times on an average. And once this collection is completed, after that these poppies are collected, these fruits are collected, and then they are put it in a container where due to gravity the remaining latex is collected. And once all the latex is collected, it is allowed to air dry. The packing of this poppy is normally done in the poppy leaves. And if we talk about the morphology, these are the latex, dried latex of the opium. They look like this on collection and drying. So, they are either rounded masses or they are flattened masses, and this rounded or flattened masses, they have a bitter taste, very slight odor, and color, it varies from pale yellow to brown in color. So, it can be of different colors from pale yellow to brown in color. It is slightly, initially it is plastic in nature. Plastic means it is having a little flexibility, but gradually on drying it becomes more brittle in nature, it can break, it becomes more stony on drying. Initially it is plastic, later on it becomes brittle in nature. So, this is how this opium looks. And if we look at the chemical constituents of opium, so the main chemical constituent is morphine, which was isolated by say Turner, and the other derivatives are codeine, narcotine, thebaine, noscapine, narcine and papaverine. These are only few which I have mentioned here. There are numerous types of alkaloids which have been isolated from morphine, and because of these varied types of various molecules, they have been classified into 5 different categories. So, just imagine how many types of alkaloids are there, because they have to be divided into 5 different types based on their structural differences. So, we have, one is the morphine type, then we have the phthalide isoquinoline type, benzyl isoquinoline type, cryptopin type, and certain unknown constituents where the structure elucidation is still remaining. And what are those? So, this is morphine. Morphine, this is the structure, and you can see that it is having a phenanthrene nucleus. There are 3 ring structures which are joined together, as well as we have one isoquinoline ring. You can see that there is a 6-membered ring attached to a 5-membered heterocyclic ring. Imagine it in a 3-dimensional pattern. So, this is having phenanthrene nucleus with isoquinoline nucleus, and codeine or oripavin, thebaine, all these belong to the morphine type of alkaloids. Then we saw that it has benzyl isoquinoline type of alkaloids. So, papaverine, it is having this isoquinoline ring as well as this benzyl ring. So, this becomes the benzyl isoquinoline ring, and papaverine belongs to that category of morphine alkaloids. The third category which we saw was the phthalide isoquinoline ring, and phthalide ring is basically, you can see this is the thalide ring and this is the isoquinoline ring. So, together it forms thalide isoquinoline type of derivatives. So, all these are the important ones. Here noscapine is not at all you can say a narcotic in nature. Papaverine is slightly narcotic, but it has different applications compared to morphine. And in morphine itself, the difference is morphine type of alkaloids. Here you can see the structure of morphine. This is the structure of codeine. In codeine, we have one methoxy group and in morphine we have hydroxy group. So, just one addition of methoxy group is leading to change in its activity. So, what are the uses? Basically, it is used as a narcotic, analgesic as well as sedative and to relieve the pain in diarrhea, dysentery and cough. So, all these effects are generally because morphine is activating the opioid receptors, because of which a narcotic and analgesic effect is seen. Codeine is considered to be a mild sedative and generally an antitussive, because of which it is used in the cough mixtures. Noscapine is also antitussive in nature, while papaverine it is used as a smooth muscle relaxant and different types of aches in the abdomen. So, this is about opium and now we move to the next drug, that is vinca. This is a common plant which you must have seen at many places growing wild or in gardens, but you must not be knowing that it is medicinally very effective drug. So, it is commonly known as Catharanthus or Madagascar periwinkle. In Hindi we call it Sadabahar or Barmasi because it keeps on growing throughout the year. And the biological source of vinca is that it consists of the entire plant, means all the parts of the vinca they are used as a drug. So, entire plant of Catharanthus roseus belonging to the family Apocynaceae. So, here you have to remember that Apocynaceae is the family which is generally responsible for the synthesis of indole alkaloids. So, the biological source is Catharanthus roseus and the family is Apocynaceae. And the geographical source, it is basically indigenous, means it has been found first time in Madagascar, which is in Africa, and from Madagascar it was sent to different countries, and because it grows very easily in various tropical and subtropical regions, it is cultivated very easily in countries like India, Australia, South Africa, North America and South America. And now in brief we will look at the biosynthesis of vinca alkaloids. Now you have studied in unit 1 that tryptophan is synthesized through the shikimic acid pathway and geraniol is a isoprene derivative again synthesized from the shikimic acid pathway. So, they get converted to tryptamine and cycloogenin and they come together to form the strictocidin. And strictocidin gives rise to two alkaloids which are the indole alkaloids, vindoline and catharanthine. And this vindoline and catharanthine, when they dimerize, they form this structure of a vinca alkaloid. If this R, it is a methyl group, then we will call it vinblastine. If it is a aldehyde group, we will call it vincristin. So, this is how the biosynthesis of vinca alkaloid is done. The cultivation and collection of this plant is very easy because it grows very easily. Initially, the seed propagation is done in the nurseries. It is grown in nursery beds and requires any type of soil, any type of climate, not the temperate climate, but tropical or subtropical climates are good for this plant. And generally what is done for collection, initially above the ground, around 10 centimeters above the ground, the stem part is cut and the rest part is remaining. So, by ploughing or plugging, these roots and remaining stem is removed. All the parts are separated nicely, air dried, washed, again dried and then they are marketed. Now the cultivation is very important because the active constituents, that is vincristine and vinblastine, are isolated from these plants and the yield or the percentage is very less. So tons and tons of this periwinkle is required for the production of vincristine and vinblastine, therefore lot of cultivation needs to be done. Now the characteristics, so these are very bright flowers, you must have seen it many times in gardens, very bright flowers. Normally in UP region we have it in purple or pink colorations, otherwise it has white, carmine colors, and generally the characteristic odor, the odor is generally characteristic in nature and the taste is bitter. The flowers are hermaphrodite. Hermaphrodite means it bears both the type of flowers, male and female flowers in the same plant, and the leaves of this plant are petiolate, means it has a small stalk in the on the lower end. So it is petiolate in nature. Margin is entire, means smooth. The shape is ovate or oblong. So the shape is generally like this. So it is oblong shape. The appearance is glossy, it is very shiny in nature, and the apex of this leaf has a small notch which is generally seen at the end. So the apex is acute in these leaves, and the fruits are basically follicular. Follicular means long stalk like fruits are seen, and inside them we have the arrangement of small black seeded seeds which are globular in shape. Black globular seeds are present inside the plant. The main chemical constituents, as I already discussed, they are the indole derivatives. The ring, you can see this is the indole ring, and the main alkaloids are vinblastine and vincristine, which are dimeric alkaloids formed from vindolin and catharanthine. So we have individually present vindolin and catharanthine, and their dimers are also present. Then it contains agmelicin, serpentine, tetrahydroalstonin is also present, and various other monoterpenes, sesquiterpenes, indole and indoline glycosides are found to be present. And now we come to the uses. So the main uses of vinca, for which it is cultivated at a large scale, for which the isolations are done at a large scale, is that it is a anti-tumor alkaloid, which is a very important use. It is an anti-cancer agent, okay. And which type of cancer does it act? So if you look at vinblastine, it acts against the Hodgkin's disease. Hodgkin's disease is the disease which is nothing but blood cancer. In common language we call it blood cancer, which is initiated by the lymphatic system. Means through the lymphatic system a lymphoma starts, because of which the blood cancer happens, and vinblastine is helpful in treating that by inhibition of the metaphase of mitosis. Okay. So you know the cells divide by mitosis. So cancer cells also divide by mitosis, and in that stage the spindle formation which takes place, that is inhibited by vinblastine. And vincristine is also used in leukemia in children by the same mechanism. It is also used in any kind of bleedings like menorrhagia or hemorrhages like bleeding piles, as well as in oral as well as throat infections like scurvy, sore throat, inflamed tonsils. Some people claim it to be useful in diabetes, and traditionally in many places it is used as a purgative drug. The flower, it is used as a purgative for relieving from constipation. So this is about vinca. Thank you very much.